I feel like I'm getting hammered.
Caitlin Clark has faced plenty of challenges on the court, but nothing has been more frustrating for fans than the inconsistent and downright questionable officiating. From blatant no calls to unnecessary technicals, it's starting to feel like the refs have a personal vendetta. Is this just tough competition, or is there something deeper at play? The energy in the arena is electric every time Clark steps onto the floor. Fans are on their feet, anticipating her signature deep threes and dazzling assists. But instead of being able to focus on her game, Clark has to constantly look over her shoulder, not just for defenders, but for the referees waiting to blow the whistle at the most questionable moments. The crowd, once roaring in support, often finds itself turning against the officials, booing decisions that make absolutely no sense.
Indiana leads by 11 with 5:48 remaining in the second.
So what's really happening? Are these just bad calls? Or is there a pattern of bias emerging? We're breaking down 10 of the most outrageous game-changing calls that had fans, analysts, and even players scratching their heads. And trust me, when we get to number 7, you won't believe how blatant this has become. Let's start with one of the most ridiculous no calls in recent memory. It was September 22nd, the start of the playoffs. Indiana Fever versus the Connecticut Sun. Tensions were high, and all eyes were on Caitlin Clark, the league's most electrifying rookie. The stage was set for a thrilling showdown, but instead, fans were treated to one of the most egregious officiating blunders of the season. Just minutes into the game, Sun guard Dejanay Carrington lunged for the ball but ended up hitting Clark square in the eye. The force of the impact left Clark momentarily dazed, blinking as she tried to regain her focus. The crowd waited for the whistle, and waited, and waited, but it never came.
Clark, harassed by Carrington, finds Boston. Clark gets hit in the face by Carrington and is down.
Fans erupted in outrage, expecting at least a foul call, if not a flagrant. But the refs? Silent. The play continued as if nothing had happened. Meanwhile, Clark, clearly affected by the hit, struggled to find her rhythm. She finished the first half shooting an uncharacteristic 1 for 9 from the field, including 0 for 6 from beyond the arc. A nasty bruise started to form around her eye, a physical reminder of yet another missed call.
And Clark is still down after taking a shot following the pass to Boston.
This was just the first of many moments that had people questioning what exactly the officials were doing. Was this just another case of tough playoff basketball, or was it something more? Either way, the message was clear. Clark wasn't going to get any superstar calls. If anything, she was going to be on the receiving end of some of the worst non-calls the league had to offer.
As everyone else is seeing this angle, I'm calling her in, and I'm saying to her, I need answers.
Fans erupted in outrage, taking to social media to demand accountability from the league. One furious viewer called it the worst officiated basketball game of all time, while another slammed the refereeing as an absolute embarrassment. But despite the mounting frustration from spectators, Caitlin Clark did what she does best, kept her focus, and continued battling. And the biased officiating didn't stop there. Throughout the game, Clark endured relentless physicality, held, shoved, and repeatedly hit. Yet the whistle remained silent. No calls, no protection, just an expectation for her to play through it all. Take a look at this moment when Marina Mabrey aggressively defended Clark as she attempted her first postseason bucket.
Clark trying to get around Mabrey. Clark to the rim, reverses it home through the contact.
Even the game's commentators couldn't ignore the excessive contact, calling attention to the blatant fouls. But the referees? Completely indifferent. Clark, however, didn't let the missed calls define her. She found other ways to contribute, proving yet again why she's one of the toughest competitors in the league. But this wasn't just about one game. It was a glaring example of how officiating can shape outcomes and, more importantly, put players at risk. Then came another moment of shocking physicality that left fans questioning the boundaries between aggressive defense and outright dangerous play. This time, it was a matchup against the Connecticut Sun on August 28th. Everything seemed normal, until Alyssa Thomas bulldozed through Clark, delivering a shoulder check that sent the rookie crashing to the floor.
Another look here at the heavy contact.
The arena gasped in disbelief. The hit was brutal, yet somehow, the officials only assessed a common foul. Fans were livid. "That's not basketball," one person tweeted. Another described it as a cheap shot, leaning in with the shoulder. The overwhelming consensus? That was a flagrant foul, and the failure to call it as such only fueled concerns about the officiating in the WNBA. Even after enduring relentless physicality, Caitlin Clark refused to let it shake her confidence. She shook off the hit, got back on her feet, and went straight to work. Her ability to bounce back and stay locked in on the game was a testament to her mental toughness. Despite the blows, Clark continued making an impact, proving why she's one of the most determined athletes in the league.
Therefore, Alyssa Thomas.
Yeah, they're not going to look at this. They might.
It's gotten the fans here fired up.
But just when it seemed like Clark had overcome every challenge thrown her way, a new controversy emerged. This time, from an unexpected source. Imagine this: a timeout, a fired-up rookie rallying her fans, and then, out of nowhere, a veteran stepping in with a blatant shove. How would the referees react? The matchup against the Seattle Storm on August 18th had already been an intense battle. With the game nearing its climax, Clark was near the Seattle bench, hyping up the crowd, feeding off the electric atmosphere. And then, suddenly, Skylar Diggins-Smith made her move. Without warning, Diggins-Smith stepped up behind Clark and delivered a shoulder check, forcefully pushing her out of the way. The initial excitement in the arena turned into stunned gasps, quickly followed by a wave of angry boos. But the referees? Once again, they let it slide. No foul, no warning, just silence. This moment instantly ignited a debate about sportsmanship and fairness. Fans flooded social media, demanding answers. "How is this not a foul?" one asked. Another questioned why certain players seemed to get away with blatant aggression, while Clark continued to be scrutinized for the slightest actions.
Okay, by now I'm sure you've seen Skylar Diggins assault Caitlin Clark after Indiana blew out Seattle.
And yet, while Diggins-Smith's push went completely unnoticed by officials, Clark's own displays of emotion and passion on the court have been met with quick technicals and warnings. So the question remains, was this just another example of inconsistent officiating, or is there a deeper issue at play within the WNBA? That same August 18th showdown against the Seattle Storm was already intense, but what happened next turned up the heat even more. With 7:14 remaining in the third quarter, Caitlin Clark missed a shot and, in a moment of frustration, lightly hit the padding of the basketball hoop. Before anyone could even process what had happened, the referee's whistle rang out. Technical foul.
And Caitlin Clark gets hit with a technical. After
the call sent shockwaves through the arena. Fans were immediately divided. Was this really an act of unsportsmanlike behavior, or simply a player reacting to a tough moment? The debate raged on as Clark later explained her reaction, but the damage was already done.
I got a technical for basically being mad at myself because I missed the three and then I went and hit the backboard, and he told me it was disrespectful to the game of basketball.
Despite the questionable call, Clark didn't let it shake her. She stayed locked in, determined to lead her team to victory. While others might have let the frustration linger, she responded the only way she knows how, by letting her game do the talking.
But I think he fired me up to continue to play a lot harder. I thought we got a lot better after he did that, so I want to thank him for that.
Clark didn't just move on, she dominated. Ignoring the shove from Diggins-Smith and brushing off the technical foul, she kept her energy up and remained laser-focused. The result? A commanding 17-point win for the Fever, with Clark dropping an impressive 23 points.
Had nothing to do with my team, had nothing to do with their reffing, had nothing to do with other team. It was just because I'm a competitor.
But here's where things get really interesting. Is this type of reaction consistently penalized? Or is Clark being singled out? Let's take a closer look at how referees have handled similar situations for other players in the league. Are these rules being applied fairly, or is there a clear double standard at play?
Put Michaela on your wedding in that group.
Kennedy Carter nearly picks off the pass. And Diana Taurasi, they'll count the bucket. And one coming up for DT.
Technical fouls were just the tip of the iceberg. As the Indiana Fever squared off against the Las Vegas Aces, a split-second collision would spark outrage and raise a chilling question. How far is too far when it comes to physical play in the WNBA? September 11th, Gainbridge Fieldhouse. The energy in the arena was electric until it suddenly wasn't. Jackie Young's hand made contact with Caitlin Clark's face, sending the rookie stumbling back, momentarily shaken.
Clark, the hesitation, working inside the reverse. Owen took a big hit there on Jackie Young.
The crowd collectively held its breath, waiting for the call. Common foul.
And the foul does come, and for the second time here in the last minute, we have seen a heavy collision.
The reaction was instant. Boos rained down from the stands, disbelief spread through social media, and fans were left questioning what they had just witnessed. But Clark, as always, refused to dwell on it. She shook it off and got back in the game. Yet the moment hung in the air, a glaring example of the difference between tough defense and reckless play. Clark's resilience was undeniable, but the question remained: how much more of this was she supposed to endure? May 22nd, 2024. The Indiana Fever found themselves in a fierce battle with the Seattle Storm. The first half was winding down, and tensions were running high. Caitlin Clark, always aggressive, drove hard to the basket. She was met with contact. Once, then again, and a third time. Still, no whistle.
Seconds left. Goes around to Gumake. Drives baseline. His shot rejected by Izzy McMagor. And all of a sudden, we're pretty close. This has been as close as it's been.
The crowd, fully locked in, erupted. Not in celebration, but in sheer disbelief. How was that not a foul? On the sidelines, Fever head coach Christy Sides had seen enough. Her frustration boiled over as she spoke out after the game. "We've just got to get better with the officiating. We've got to get some of those calls." Her words weren't just frustration. They were a direct call for fairness, for consistency, for the respect Clark deserved on the court. But the bigger question loomed. Was this just another missed call? Or was Clark being officiated differently than everyone else? As the season went on, that question became harder and harder to ignore. As one controversy fades, another takes its place. It's becoming a pattern. Caitlin Clark at the center of jaw-dropping moments, but not for the reasons you'd expect. This time, it's not about her record-breaking performances or game-changing shots. It's about the calls, or lack thereof. June 19th, Washington Mystics versus Indiana Fever. The tension in the arena is thick, the stakes high. Clark makes her move, the defense closes in, and then it happens. Stephanie Dolson steps up, makes contact, the ball is swatted away. The crowd collectively holds its breath, waiting for the inevitable whistle, but it never comes.
To Clark. Clark turns on the Jets. Clark to the rim and blocked. Oh, Dolson got back. Clark thought there was a foul.
Confusion spreads like wildfire. Fans are outraged, social media explodes with disbelief. How does an obvious foul like this get ignored? It's one thing to let the game flow, but this felt different.
Oh, Clark got a pretty good case.
Some argue it's just part of being a rookie, that Clark is simply experiencing the standard "welcome to the league" treatment. But others see something more concerning, a trend of blatant no calls that seem to follow Clark every game. One fan puts it bluntly: elbow to the face is a no call, but Clark hitting the post is a technical. The inconsistency is starting to pile up. Now, let's rewind to one of Clark's earliest moments in the WNBA, a game that set the tone for everything that followed. May 18th, Indiana Fever versus New York Liberty. Clark, still getting used to the pro level, navigates the court with her signature confidence. But then, boom. Brianna Stewart sets a screen so hard it sends shockwaves through the crowd. The impact is undeniable, the collision obvious. But once again, silence from the officials. Clark stumbles, visibly shaken, while fans watch in disbelief. If this isn't a foul, what is? Social media lights up with arguments and heated debates. Yes, screens are part of basketball, but where's the line? When does a strong pick become excessive contact? And more importantly, why does it feel like Clark isn't getting the same calls as everyone else? The more it happens, the harder it becomes to ignore. This isn't about bad luck or just tough defense. It's about consistency, or in Clark's case, the lack of it. The question remains, is this just tough rookie treatment, or is the league deliberately letting things slide when it comes to Caitlin Clark? Caitlin Clark's mental strength has been tested time and time again, but nothing could prepare her for what happened on May 20th. What should have been a routine play turned into a moment that had fans and analysts alike questioning whether WNBA officiating was failing her. The game against the Connecticut Sun started like any other, but things took a painful turn. Clark was making her way through a screen when disaster struck. Her ankle rolled awkwardly, and in an instant, she was on the floor, grimacing in pain. The entire arena held its breath.
That they can stop Caitlin and that they're the better team.
Oh, Caitlin goes down.
Surely this warranted a whistle. Surely the officials would step in. But once again, silence from the referees. No foul, no stoppage, nothing. Just Clark, clutching her ankle while the game went on around her. Fans couldn't believe what they were witnessing. Social media exploded. If a hard screen resulting in a rolled ankle wasn't enough to earn a call, then what would? The question wasn't just about fairness. It was about player safety. But Clark, being Clark, didn't let it stop her. Through obvious discomfort, she fought on, refusing to let the injury take her out of the game. This moment, painful as it was, showcased exactly what makes her special. Not just her skill, but her grit. Clark isn't just playing for highlight reels. She's playing to win, no matter the obstacles.
Now, what little girl wants to grow up and play in a league where you're targeted like that? How do you sit here and profess and demand that everyone take women's sports seriously when you can't even take it seriously enough to not act like a junior high queen on the court? It's stupid. That's so dumb. It looks like a soap opera.
10 controversial calls, 10 jaw-dropping moments. From brutal body checks to blatant non-calls, Caitlin Clark has faced it all. But through each challenge, she proved why she's the future of the WNBA. These weren't just bad calls. They were moments that sparked outrage, ignited debates, and forced fans to question the integrity of WNBA officiating. But here's the real takeaway. Clark's resilience never wavered. No matter how many hits she took, how many times the whistle stayed silent, or how unfair the treatment seemed, she adapted. She found ways to excel even when the odds, and the referees, seemed stacked against her. The real question now? What does this mean for the future of the WNBA? How does the league ensure fair play while maintaining the intensity that makes basketball so exciting? We've broken down the calls, we've seen the hits, we've watched Clark fight through it all. But now, it's your turn to weigh in. Is the WNBA failing to protect its biggest star? Or is this just part of the game? You decide. Let us know in the comments. Like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen, and we will see you in the next one.